All right, welcome. So this session is on cataloging in the web client, and I'd like it to be as interactive as possible. I know that some of you don't have microphones, so if you have a question, please put it in the chat area. If I don't see it right away, maybe John or somebody else can let me know. Sometimes I have to minimize the GoToMeeting window because of navigating around the client. So you should all be able to see my screen, and I thought we could just start out with a basic cataloging exercise and then go from there. The home screen of the web client looks like this. I will be adding some links to these areas, but for now, this is what we have. I'm going to go ahead and click on Search the Catalog. We've been having issues with keyword searches lately, so I'm going to avoid using the keyword search and instead do a title search. I didn't want you to have to wait and watch the spinning wheel that we've sometimes had with keyword searches. So I'm just going to catalog a couple books. They're out of my personal collection. They're temporarily going to be in Union's collection since I'm logged in as a Union workstation. And I believe this is the title I'm looking for. Okay. Just confirming pages. Yes. All right. We are good. So now that I found that this is the one I want, up here at the top, there's an Add Copies button. Before I click on that, I wanted to point out something that's a new feature in the version that we have. Is you'll notice that the Sandpiper Cove is highlighted, and that's because that's the search term I used. And it's an enhancement to the catalog. They wanted the ability to highlight search terms. So anyway, that's why that is darker than the rest of it. And if I had only, say I had a long title and only put some of the words in, it would only highlight the words that I had put in my search term. So sometimes it looks a little funny if you've just taken words out of the title and search for them. All right, add copies. So in the web client, this is now what comes up. What we have is what's called a combined volume and item editor. Volume copy editor is something else that it's referred to. So okay, I'm just going to type in, I have a feeling their call number structure is different if I remember correctly, but I'm just, Here again, I don't have barcodes with me, so I'm just going to make up one. Okay. I can assign a copy number if I want to, or just leave it blank. And there's no parts associated with this particular item, so I'm going to leave that blank as well. Now down here under, we now have two different tabs. One's called Working Copies and one's called Completed Copies. Most of the time, you're only going to be entering one item at a time, so this really doesn't come into play. Most of the time, you're just going to save and exit. But if you did happen to be cataloging several copies, say you were at the district level and entering copies for multiple branches, then you could have several different items down here, and you want to just store the one that you're working on at the time and then go to the next one and then save and exit at that point. Does that logic seem okay? Okay, no questions so far. All right. At this point, if I already have a copy template, I can choose it from this box. And let's see if I do. I have lots of templates. Well, Union Paperback doesn't really, it gets me close. And then I could click on apply at this point, and it would populate the fields based upon what was in that template. Now, if I wanted to create a brand new template, say that this, I'm going to be cataloging a lot of adult fiction and I don't want to use the Union Paperback one, I can come up here to copy templates. And this will, I can either modify one that's up here, or I can create a new one. And to create a new one, basically you just fill out the fields as you want. Now, some of these settings might be a little different for you, but because I have so many workstations, it's not assigning some defaults that it would normally assign. Okay, shelving location. Okay, adult fiction. Circulation modifier, book. If I'm going too fast, make sure you say something to me. Normal for the loan duration. Circulate as type. Books and documents. Holdable, yes. Fine level, normal. I can choose to assign age-based protection. It's not going to float. Status, available. OPEC visible, yes. Price, I have no idea. 15.
Can I make a comment here? When you put the status in there,
yes,
be aware, because I had this happen once, that it will overwrite if you already have like a copy somewhere in the system, say a pre-cataloged copy or something, and you bring it in and then you apply your fields, it will overwrite if it's checked out, for instance.
Oh, yeah, good point. Yeah.
This is why I had a question about, doing the copy templates, because I did that accidentally, and then I ended up deleting it because I couldn't figure out how to take it out once I'd set it there. And
yeah, so
I couldn't figure out how to create a new one.
So that is a good caution. If you want this copy template to be flexible and usable for modifying things that already have a status, maybe it's better just to not put that in and add it, change it later. So let me see.
And of course, it's all dependent upon your workflow. I happen to have a different workflow than a lot of people, so.
You do. And so that's one of the things that is very situational. Oftentimes I recommend to folks when they're creating a template, unless they have a lot of items that are the same price, don't go ahead and put the price in your template. Just add that later. So I wasn't listening to my own advice here by putting a price in, because I can do that later. Deposits, no. Quality, good.
You'll also want to do the reference buttons too.
Yes, good point. Normally, a lot of these are, it seemed like there were defaults in the prior copy templates. And so a lot of these, you just went with the default and you didn't have to change as much. But once these are set up, they're very, very useful, of course. I wanted to mention down here at the, well, we won't go into that. because I can do that in the item itself. So at this point, I want to click Save. And it should prompt me, no.
This is the problem I came up with.
Yeah, it normally prompts you for
create it from a modified, but I also couldn't create a new one.
Okay. So this is obviously, wondering if I type in a name. Okay. And if I come back here, is it going to have a new one? Yes. So it's not intuitive. You just have to type a name in there.
Thank you.
And then click on Save. So yeah, we found it out by experimenting.
This is Lisa, and I have a question too. So do we need to get, what I'm having trouble with is working between the 3 different branches. So is it better to go in and assign the templates preloaded with the location, the owning library, circulating library?
I think so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's like 2 of my questions wiped out.
What do you think, Dia? I mean, I think that just makes it easier.
I have them set up for all of my branches.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sometimes it's easier, but sometimes it's not. It just depends. You probably have more, Lisa, you probably have more consistency between your branches than I do with mine. So, one template may work for all of your fiction, and then just adjust your circulating library.
Right.
It depends on your workflow and what seems to work best. And you may want to play with trying both ways.
Awesome. Thanks, Dia, because the couple of times I've tried to work in between the libraries on the volume editor part, it's very, very time consuming. And you have to double check your work like 3 times. So this is a great hint. Thank you both.
So Valeria, you're asking how to call in. There's a phone number on the original meeting notice. You just call that number and give the code. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I called in. Okay, so I went ahead and applied the template that I had just created, the Union Adult Fiction. It did populate the right shelving location. All of the other fields are filled in. I can enter a price now. The other things I wanted to note on this combined volume item editor, there's 3 tabs down here. Copy notes. You have the ability to add notes. I'll go ahead and click on that so you can see. And you can indicate whether this is a public note, whether you want the public to be able to see it. Cancel. There's copy alerts that you can assign. Basically, this would be where you would type in check CDs or, list the number of parts kind of thing. Not necessary on this one. Copy tags, I'm going to cover, I think, in another session just because it's a little bit more involved and it's a new feature. Copy tags are give us the ability to do things like a digital book plate where we can assign a copy tag to an item that said it was donated by such and such an organization or person. And then we can make those copy tags searchable in the catalog. So it's a really nice feature, and some of what we're putting in the copy notes can instead be put in a copy tag and then searchable in the catalog by our patrons and by staff. So I want to take advantage of this new feature, but it might bog us down if we talk about it today, and I want to get some ideas of what people would like to do with those copy tags. So anyway, just a teaser. it's definitely a nice feature that we want to explore and start using in our system. And that's what that is right there. So if I'm done with this item.
Can I ask a quick question for those who have used this
Yes.
and used excuse me, CompuTemplates? Are you finding that they continue to everything sticks properly? Because I have noticed when I first started, they weren't. Sometimes not all the fields would fill in properly, and other times they did, and they seem to be a little bit more consistent now. But I'm just wondering if other folks are having that same kind of problem. I try to kind of keep an eye because of.
Yeah, I've had problems with stuff sticking too, and so I've kind of given it up for a little bit, and just run through the staff client thing. But I do, when I am doing it, I have to go back and forth between the two to make sure that it's sticking. I am having the same problem. It's very frustrating.
Okay. I guess I would be curious as to when it doesn't stick, is it because it's the first time you've used this template within the web
No.
client?
I don't think so.
Okay. So we'll have to try and find a pattern. John and I will also look on the Evergreen system and see if we can't see if we find any bugs related to CopyTemplates, and then we can report back. So sometimes they don't stick. I guess what I'm trying to confirm is when you save it, it doesn't save what you had in your template, or it doesn't bring up in the template what it should.
When you apply, it's not always applying.
Okay.
And the biggest problem, well, no, that's not true. I was going to say the biggest problem is the radio buttons, but there have been a couple of the others that are the drop-down boxes that haven't properly filled either.
Okay.
I haven't noticed it as much in the last few days, but when I first started working with this, it was a lot.
Okay. All right. So we will look into that and report back to the group. I haven't been doing as much item cataloging as I have been working with bibs, and so I hadn't discovered it yet. So Jenny's asking, so only part of it works or the whole thing? Sometimes, from what I'm understanding, is that when you click apply, it puts all your settings in there correctly, and other times it doesn't. So it's worth checking to make sure that when you click apply, that everything is set as you want. And so I'm just double checking here. And in this case, I mean, of course, it's a brand new template that I created within the web client, so that might be, I wouldn't panic, Jenny, because it sounds like it's working most of the time. So I don't know that you've got a lot of problems out there.
Well, and I don't know if this makes any difference, but all of my templates, the first time when I brought this up,
Yeah.
The web client, they all seem to have populated in from the desktop.
Yes, and mine did too.
And I don't know if maybe that's part of it because it came from another, I didn't import them or anything. They just did it on their own. And Beth, maybe your thought of the first time you use it in the web client, I'll keep a closer eye on ones that I haven't used in a while and make sure that that's maybe not part of it. But
okay. Okay. And Anna says hers did not transfer. I wonder why.
It's interesting because I had read that they wouldn't, and so I was really surprised when I pulled up and they were there.
Yeah. Okay, more questions. I'll ask, why did some transfer and not others? Okay. Okay. All right, so at this point, if I'm happy with this, I can click on Save and Exit. Yeah, Anna, I was kind of wondering about that, whether the Linux environment had something different. Maybe it wasn't able to access them from the profile as easily. Because, you know, the web client is having to interact with your system to pull things like that in. Okay, so we now see, well, we don't see.
You have to refresh.
Yes. I was reminding myself of that. It's like, oh, it's not quite, it doesn't automatically refresh. And I think that's one of the things that is an enhancement in a future release. There's things that people have noticed that they miss. And so they've been working on those. So to refresh, I've been just coming up here to the web browser and clicking on the circular arrow and reloading the page. And you can see now that Union Carnegie, and hopefully they're not looking at this and thinking that who's cataloging for us? And what a strange barcode. I did write it down so I could get rid of it. Okay, so that's one example. Let's see, where do we want to go from here? With this up, there's obviously lots of different tabs. It's a tabular view for some of the things that were under an actions item. And in some senses, I like this better. It's just getting used to it. If I want to edit the record, I click on Mark Edit. It has the same features with the flat text editor, the stack subfields, if you like that, the ability to add an item with the call number and barcode. So it's like the fast item add that we had in the desktop staff client. One of the major things that I've noticed when I've been working with the Mark Editor and the web client is that when you add a new field, let's see, I'm used to Control Enter. It automatically puts a 999 in there. That's okay. But I use the tab button to get over, enter my subfield, and then I'm used to just starting to type, and you have to hit tab again to get into the field to start typing. So, I mean, just with working with the Mark Edit screen, that's what I've noticed procedural-wise. But I know that there's a lot of folks, I probably should get rid of that field before I go on here. A lot of folks use the flat text editor, and of course that's the same, hasn't changed. Any observations that others have with using the Mark Editor?
This is Dia. When I add things, I can't figure out consistently why sometimes it will automatically go to where to put the subfield delimiter character, and other times it stays in or pops back to the beginning of the string. I don't know if anybody else has come up with anything. I just have to watch where it's at.
Okay, so you're saying sometimes it automatically goes somewhere that you're not expecting it to?
Mm-hmm. So like, for instance, in the 040,
yeah.
I go to add my my code, and I'll add the subfield D, and sometimes it will jump there, and sometimes it won't. Sometimes it's like it sits on the previous one where you tried to start.
Okay.
And I've tried playing with where I have the cursor when I do that, but it doesn't seem to matter. It seems to be very random, so just something to be aware of.
Okay.
you right click to get that?
I did.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I was noticing something in the manual, and so I wanted to try it. Yeah, the right click on the tag gives you options, so you can insert a field after, field before, delete the field, um, and it will even, give you choices of fields that you want to enter. Of course, I don't know, like if I said I wanted to enter a general note, it puts it right where my cursor is, and it kind of wiped out the 040. So you got to be careful about what you're doing. So that's like a replace tag. So if I had noticed that I had the wrong tag and I right clicked and went down to the correct tag, it would replace it for me. Not something that I use very often, but when I was entering a local subject heading yesterday and I entered a 650 automatically and I realized, oh, that should be a 690, I could have gone back and maybe replaced it, although I don't know that 690 would be in the drop down. Nope. So it wouldn't have mattered. But there's obviously a lot of other tags to choose from in there. In another session, I talked about the fact that you could right-click on these fields and choose a value. I can customize this so that if we come across fields that don't have that right-click and we want them to have values, I can put those in the system. Just wanted to let you know that that was customizable. Okay, so we have gone over editing the MARC record. If I had made any changes, which I don't believe I did, I could click on save at this point. MARC view, the same as before. View holds. It automatically assumes my location, but I can look at the holds for all of Sage if I click on that. So there's no title holds in effect for this record right now. Monographic parts, this is where you would access the parts. Oh, okay. Anna had a question that I missed, so we can go back to the MARC edit. She's asking is it pulling up series authorities in the same way by right-clicking on it? Okay. No, you have to click on, you have to use these little tags. That's what I had thought, but I wanted to try the right click just in case. So if I click on this, then it brings up the authorities. And you can apply whichever one you want.
Just be sure you use the blue ones instead of the orange ones, because the orange ones are C-froms. And generally, those aren't always the correct ones.
Yeah, and it lists it there. It says see from and see also. So it can give you some ideas of other search term, other subject terms that you might want to use, but you have to make sure. So this is a genre. I'm guessing that's what the G stands for. Okay. Okay, I went over parts, holdings view. This is where you see the items. Right now mine is set to show holdings at or below Sage. If I had made it specific to Union, I would only see Unions. Copy. Okay, show empty volumes, show empty libraries, copy detail, volume detail, etc. If I double click on it, it does bring up the item and I can edit it once again.
Before you leave that, can I
Yes,
ask a quick question?
sure.
So I had something occur the other day, and I don't know how to change it back to this view. I started with this view where it was like you had the working copy with the list on the left and then the actual template on the right. And now it seems to be all stacked. So the template then shows up underneath, and that where it's got the barcode created and all that is a big long strip across above the template.
Interesting.
And I don't know for sure what I did, but I haven't figured out how to go back.
Okay.
Because this is a little easier in some respects, not to float through too much.
Well, these hide buttons don't do it.
No, and I think what happened was I was working on something where I actually stretched the visible box, not on this, but maybe on the actual bib. And I don't know. Anyway, this seems to have changed it after that.
So, question, do you see the fixed fields and everything when you're cataloging?
In the bib?
Yeah.
Depends on which you're looking at, whether the item or the mark editor or the flat text.
Right, but I mean the mark editor. Do you see the fixed fields? Or are they hidden?
No, I usually see them.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is because I had a glitch in my browser where the fixed fields were hiding and it was causing weird display issues, and so I was trying to figure out if that could be what it was.
Unfortunately, though, now that you mention it, the fixed fields don't always match. So sometimes it's giving me what should be like the fixed fields for like a video or a sound recording instead of a book. I mean, that's what it's showing me, even though it's the correct type and it's the correct 008 fields are filled in correctly, but what is visibly showing is not for the book.
Okay, because I've noticed that if you change the fixed fields, and in the staff client, it would automatically fix everything, and I've had to completely close out of that record, come back in, and then it would correct the format of the fixed fields.
It doesn't seem to matter for me.
Okay, I'm wondering if you're.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm wondering if you're having the same glitch I was having, but it's just presenting slightly different.
Could be.
So
I
can talk to you offline about it.
And I've tried, clearing the cache and all that didn't seem to make that much difference.
Exactly, because I actually uninstalled my browser, cleared the profiles out, did everything, and it wasn't going away. And then I used I actually used CCleaner, and it fixed it. But
okay, yeah, I would like to talk to you.
Something I want to advocate everybody jump to.
I will talk to you later.
I'm glad you brought it up, Dia, because if somebody's having abnormalities, we want to know about it and see if we can't resolve it. All right, so I'm going to get out of the volume copy editor for now. It does ask me, because I came in here and was moving around, it wants to make sure that I don't have changes that I made that might not be saved. And I know I didn't make any changes, so I'm going to go ahead and leave. So I was showing you the holdings view. Conjoined items we don't really use, so we don't need to go over that. I've got my holdings list here. There's a series of things that you can mark the item for. The other thing, there's actions. You can add it to a bucket, add it to an item bucket, copy bucket. Copy and item terms are used kind of interchangeably in the system. So any other questions about basic cataloging in the system? Okay. All right. Under the cataloging menu, the same type of options that were there before are still there. Searching record buckets, copy buckets, retrieving bib record by ID and TCN, retrieving the last bib record, create new MARC record is the same that we had before. It still thinks I have some changes. And you can choose the template to load. I go back to the home button. Import record from Z39.50. Here again, you have to have at least one of these selected over here on the right-hand side to see any search fields. So when you first come into this, you may have to select some of these and save as default. The save as default just means that you don't have to check these every time you come in. Depending on your workflow, maybe you only want to check some of the libraries and then check some more, or maybe you have favorite locations that you go to. I tend to select them all and then choose from the list. So the way it's set up right now, it looks as if the query default, the cursor is going to go to the ISBN, which is typically fine for me. That's what I usually start searching with. And then if I don't have success with that, I will go back to title and author. Let me think about other. One of the things that's coming in version 3.2 is that they're going to add the UPC search box for Library of Congress and OCLC. Right now, we've had some success searching for the UPC in the ISBN field. We've been able to find movies different ways, still without the UPC. Anyone who's been using the web client, are there any other tips that you have for using the Z39.50 client?
One thing that I miss is being able to sort.
Okay.
You know, by various, like if I want to sort by the title or ISBN or publisher, you know, whatever.
Are you talking about in the result list, Dia?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I know that there were some improvements. I printed out all of the bug fixes and new features from the version all the way through 3.2, but it's 50 some pages long, so I have to look through it and see. I know that they made some improvements to the Z39.50 interface. So it could be that the sort was added and we just have to update to another version. So I'll see if I can find that out.
So are we planning to do some update before, I mean, within the 3.1? I know there's been some comments, but I didn't know.
Yeah, obviously there'll be some discussion. John and I are going to be getting some training on doing upgrades within the release that we're on. So we're going to be learning how to upgrade from 3.1.7 to 3.1.8 or 9, or it's actually up to 10 at this point, which allows us to take advantage of bug fixes. We won't necessarily have the new features that come in 3.2. We'd have to upgrade to that. But
that would mean everybody has to move to web client at that point, correct?
Correct, yeah. So that's why we're holding off on that. Okay, so I'm catching up with okay.
And Jenny, I've had that experience too, even though I'm not scanning. Sometimes I go to copy the ISBN in there and it doesn't take it. You have to kind of like activate it or something, or click on the screen or.
Oh, okay. So it's not blinking for you like it is for me?
Not always when you come back to it.
Okay. I really should have hooked up my scanner. Ah, I actually typed it right. So this is another novel. I was just performing a search, and yeah, the sort will definitely be nice. Okay, so we'll do some research on that. And if anybody has any other Z39.50 questions, let us know. I was wondering whether the clear form, so when you clear the form, the cursor is not on the ISBN by default. So I'm wondering if it only does it when you first come in here. I'll have to play around with it a little bit. Okay, mark batch import export. For those folks that use that has stayed basically the same. I haven't had any issues bringing in CAT Express records. I know that Anna had an issue not with the import itself, but with using that batch file later. And Anna, I think I have a solution. I think I can go in and change the type of batch file, and then you can use it in the Mark Batch edit. So all the same options that were there in the desktop staff client are still there. And like I said, I haven't noticed any big changes in this area. Okay. The other ones don't really, I don't know that we need to get into them today. Are there other areas of cataloging that you'd like to explore?
Might mention, this is something that I did say something to Beth a while back ago. And when you go to delete volumes or delete items, it'll tell you that it's deleting. You don't have to do them in two separate. They do it at once, but it makes it sound like it's only doing part of it. It's actually doing all of it. You'll get a message that says deleting so many volumes / items 0 or something. It's really kind of strange, but it.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Yeah, it does. If you delete an item and it's the only item in a volume, it will automatically delete the volume for you. So you're saying the message is strange, huh?
Yeah, it says something like number of items deleted and 0 volumes or something.
So it's actually deceptive.
But it does, right, but it does take care of that volume as well.
Okay. So I'm going to go into item status.
And if you're used to using the function key for that, F5 still works.
Good point, Dia. I'm not used to using the function keys, but I know some folks are. So, yeah, I think it would be helpful was trying to think where that list is, of publishing a list of the functions that still work in the web client. I'm making a note. Okay, so I've got this item here. And what I want to do is delete the item. Aha. We'll delete 1 copy and 0 volumes. So that, yeah, that message is kind of misleading. I'm guessing it's doing that because it's only going to delete the volume if there's no other items attached to it.
But even when I know there isn't, with some of my small libraries, for instance,
yeah,
it still says the same thing.
Right. I'm saying it's kind of a general message when it should be a specific
Gotcha.
message. So I'm wondering if that's another thing that they're going to correct in future versions. Because it is going to delete the volume. I know it's going to delete the volume if it's the only copy underneath it. And it's hard for me to tell that in the item status screen, but in Holdings view, it's apparent whether you've got multiple copies under a volume. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. Item not found. Interesting.
And you'll also, well, that's just based, oh. Well, and did you get the sound with it as well?
I did.
Okay. One thing that I will notice, or I will note, is that if you're deleting multiples, you'll get multiple of those bongs, depending, and they'll be really fast in order, so just be aware. It's kind of unnerving the first time.
Okay. I've been doing most of my deletes in the desktop client. So I'm just kind of puzzled by this item not found. Makes me want to try another one and see.
That is what you get, though.
It is what you get.
Yeah.
So why?
If you refresh, does it display the record anymore? Is it? Because I know when you delete a record the other way, like from a bib record, it doesn't give you any error, and when you have to reload the record for it to show at the top record is deleted.
Yes, and I noticed that with Patreon records. It's just I'm thinking it's extraneous. So I'm just kind of curious as to why it does it. Yep, item not found. Okay, something else to explore. So little quirks like this, if the system's still functioning, it's just kind of like, why is that necessary? And I really believe that those are going to go away, because we're not going to be the only ones that this bugs. One of the things that I've seen is that they now have a cataloging work group at the Evergreen level, and they meet periodically and go over things in the system that they want improved or changed. And I found out that their meetings are actually recorded, and I want to catch up on watching those. But there's definitely a core group of people that are invested in making the cataloging part of Evergreen better. And so it's very encouraging.
One more thing I might note that I found, because this will be helpful for everyone, is the symbols table no longer seems to be available. And so in order to change, like the funny little symbol that comes before the copyright, you have to use the character map on your computer instead.
Yes, and I will go ahead and show you how to do that. because yes, I did have to discover that it is on your Windows machine under apps. Okay. Why am I having a harder time? It's because I have to remember what it's called. And it's actually under, is it under accessories? I have it right here. It's called Character Map. And because of that, it's like now I'm having...
You can always just search for it down there too.
Yes.
Especially if you have
And
Windows 10,
that's the
it'll come up really
easier
easy.
way. Thanks, Ryan. So if you do Character Map, it will bring it up for you. It's under Programs.
And then you can always right-click on it and hit
Oh, sorry.
taskbar, so it's always there.
Yeah, and once I open it up, it is, you know, until I restart my system, it's there. So you just select the copy, the character that you want to copy, select it, copy, and it copies it to your clipboard, and then you can use it to replace any character in the MarcEdit. In one sense, it's nice that we're not having to keep updating our symbol table, but it is different than we're used to. We're used to having an embedded one, and this one's external. I'm trying to think, what's the time? Okay, we're almost at an hour. I was thinking that what we could do is cover copy buckets and record buckets in a future session, and also moving your item from one bib record to another in another session as well, and also the copy tags. Are there other topics that you folks can think of that you want to cover in a future session? Okay, well, if you think of something, just email me. And I guess another question I have is, do we want to do another session in a couple weeks? Or do you want to wait longer before we do another session?
Beth, this is Anna.
Yes, Anna.
So I don't know if you got my message, but do we want to also ask about the series training time, especially since obviously we need to coordinate different trainings?
Yeah, that's a good point, Anna. Anna is going to do a training on series. And we're going to be posting the series document that was sent out earlier on the SageLib website for folks to read before the training. But we were looking at whether to do, originally we were thinking of doing the training next week, either the 14th or 15th. And seeing if there was a preference for folks in the group as to which day. Traditionally, we've done some training sessions at 1 o'clock on Thursdays, but this time was also a good time for folks. So anyway, opening it up to what you might think.
Right, so is there a preference for Thursday, or is this a better date day and time for people? And then if so, is next week too soon? And because I see Lisa says every couple of weeks is better. So would it, would you rather have the that training than the following week? And then again, either Thursday or Friday?
Hey, Anna. I just like the consistency in being able to have, the group meetings and discussing the different issues that are coming up with the cataloging. I'll take catalog training every day, but, so.
Is it helpful for people to have it then like regularly as we had it before, right? Beth, how often was it? Every other week or something?
Yeah, we were trying to do every couple weeks. We took a little break with the update, and we were trying to get things started back up again, just for consistency's sake.
Is someone going to say something? But I heard a voice.
Well, it doesn't seem like we have strong opinions one way or the other, Anna. Is there a preference on your end for when you'd like to do the series training?
I guess either, next week or the following week could work. Again, we just don't want to overload people and have too much back-to-back training. Obviously, we want people to be able to attend, so whichever works for other people. We do want people to have had a chance to look at the series documentation. Maybe we could get a sense, have people had a chance to look at that? And if not, then maybe next week is too soon.
Well, maybe what we can do is send out a short survey and get a preference for, are we thinking Thursday or Friday, Anna?
Yeah, either of those could work.
Okay, so I'll send out another, I hate to keep polling people, but
yeah.
It's hard to know, but we can give them the option and narrow it down to the 14th and 15th at the times that we've done things, like today, and the 21st and 22nd. I just want to make sure that you're available all those days, Anna.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not available any day and any time.
Correct.
Also, just to respond to Lisa's comment here, that even though the sessions are being recorded, and certainly the series one will be recorded, I mean, since we've already created the document, we really wanted to use most of that session to answer questions and work through any issues that people are finding. So I think it is great if people are able to attend and, where it's not just listening to it, but bringing in your concerns.
I agree. I do like it better. I do like it better when we can, when I'm able to ask questions and get them answered right away. But I don't want to be the hinge on what we do.
Okay. Well, just from the couple comments I've seen in the notes, it seems like Thursday is better for folks for an interactive session.
Okay, so let's maybe think about whether it should be this coming Thursday or the following Thursday. Again, whether people have had time to take a look at the documents and even, come across if you come across series problems, feel free to bring that, and we can, actually work through it. And that's actually a really good way of working the training session.
Okay. I will send out an email with the link to the series document once I get it up on the website, and I have a short survey to take for either Thursday the 14th or Thursday the 21st.
Great. Thanks, Beth.
You're welcome. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Hope you have a good rest of the day. And if there's questions afterwards, feel free to email me or one of the mentors, and we'll get some help to you.
Thanks, Beth.